Now, way back in my younger years, I loved the comic books, and how all the superhero crowd could flatten all the crooks. I had a wicked stack of comic books beside my bed, and dreams of superhero deeds were always in my head. My brother would steal one sometimes and say he never did. I'd get some dirty with him then. "Where you got that hid?" I'd twist his arm until he screeched and ran off telling Mom, and she'd get cross at me, as if 'twas me was in the wrong. But she'd make him give my comic back, and all would be okay. Then she'd kick us both out of the house. "Go on, get out and play." I'd sit beneath a shady tree and read a comic book. Give one to my brother so he wouldn't be a sook. He'd be quiet for 10 minutes, then he'd start another racket about how my hero was no good and how he couldn't hack it. I liked the Batman, see? But brother said, "No, boy, Superman is better 'cause old Batman, he can't fly." "He got a wicked plane," I said. "I bet he'd win a race." "What odds about it?" brother said. "His plane can't go in space." "Superman can go in space, and so he must be best." He had a point, I suppose. He was a proper little pest. But then as I got older and in my early teens, I noticed something not quite right in all these comic scenes. My heroes were all cool for sure, but far as I could see, there was neither one amongst them all that seemed a bit like me. You heard of Captain Newfoundland and Captain Labrador. Figured they were pretty cool, but see, I wanted more. Something like Green Lantern or the good old Spider-Man. About a bug, I suppose, but certainly not the Maggot Man. The Scorpion was taken, and of course Black Widow too. And then one day it came to me, right out of the blue. "Of course," I said, "it's wicked, and it's obvious, no doubt. And that is how I came to be da-da-da-da, the Stout." I was bitten by a radioactive horsefly once, you see, from a big old horse on George Street, owned by the RNC. It made me fast as lightning, sure I was faster than the Flash. "Go on, you slowpoke," I would tease, as Flash ran out of gas. And strong, I know I wasn't strong, sir. I could break in all the banks, but that was wrong, and so I wouldn't. But I'd juggle army tanks. I had a wicked set of wings of pure titanium, and a crystal of pure kryptonite lodged into my cranium. But mostly what I did to stop the bad guys' work was buzz around tormenting them until they went berserk. They couldn't see me, see, when they broken down at Fred's, but they could hear me buzzing, and it drove them off their heads. They'd bawl and blare and swat the air and blare and bawl some more, forget about why they were in our favourite record store. And when the cops showed up and found them all shagged out, the sergeant said, "Now, boys, I'd say that's the Stout, no doubt." Then one fall up to them all they broke in KFC. Used a backhoe like they do these days. I suppose 'twas up to me. They filled the bucket up with buckets, and the front-end loader too, then beat her for Mount Soil, a fine unsavoury crew. I found them up there, sitting back into the big old scoff, all logy-like and half asleep. They couldn't bat me off. Next day the news was all about, and I was in the paper. 'Twas the Stout who figured out the chicken backhoe caper. But like all heroes now, I had my mortal foes, and they were always at me, and I suppose that's how she goes. The miller was a bad one, but only came at night, and he was easily distracted if I'd just turned on a light. The wapses and the dousty pole were bad, but slow and feeble, but I was almost dinner once for a devil's darning needle. Now that was what they called them back in the good old day, but horse stinger is what the entomologists would say. She chased me around all through downtown, old man, sir, I was frantic. We had the whole pedestrian mall into the big old panic, and then she finally caught me, and I figured I was toast. But then she said, "Of all the bugs, 'tis ye I likes the most." We tied the knot at City Hall. The mayor said, "I'll marry him," and we had a nice reception at the Deer Lake Insectarium. A praying mantis drank too much, and challenged out a hawk moth. His missus got some cross. I know she never chewed his head off. The dung beetles all showed up with little balls beside. Our bouncers were assassin bugs. Said, "Leave those balls outside." The beetles raised a big old stink and called discrimination. Got themselves kicked out and staged a dung ball demonstration. The caterpillars spun cocoons until they were contented. All hands got on the nectar. Turned out it was fermented. The place went bottom up and a big old racket started, and we were showered with lice as the two of us departed. But now that was long ago, and the Stout is long retired. I wrecked the governor's garden party. That's what got me fired. She was like Macbeth's old missus in the Scottish play, no doubt, trying to stab me with a toothpick, screeching, "Out! Out, damn Stout!" The pension check comes once a month, and life is just a breeze. Me and the dragon lady sits home bouncing grandbugs on our knees. I don't talk about my old life. It was fun, but never pays. But the missus knits them little capes. You never know, she says. Yes, life is pretty good. There's just one disappointment. I suppose that you could say that there's just one fly in my ointment. The missus says it's nothing, and it shouldn't drive me cracked, and she loves me even though I never got a big old Marvel contract.